Speaker, narrator at 1, 0x. Media, Insidious, Chapter 2. Movie stills, haunted house interior, Insidious. Chapter 2, the 2013 follow-up to the mildly successful Insidious. Media, sinister spirits and horror movie, creepy family and horror film, is a film that promises to take us deeper into the terrifying world of the Lambert family, and the sinister spirits that haunt them. Media, laughable horror movie scenes, cheesy jump scares compilation. Instead, it drags us into a convoluted mess of cliches, plot holes, and laughable scares that are about as frightening as a haunted house at a children's birthday party. Media, unanswered questions in horror movies, cheesy jump scare reaction. If you thought the first movie left some questions unanswered, Insidious. Chapter 2 answers those questions with a shrug and a cheesy jump scare. Media, unintentionally funny horror scenes, poorly constructed horror film scenes. It's a horror film that's so unintentionally funny and poorly constructed that you'll be left wondering if the real horror is that it ever got made. Speaker, narrator at 10x. Media, twisted and confusing plot points in horror movie, confusing maze of storyline in horror film. The plot of Insidious. Chapter 2 is as twisted and confusing as a spaghetti dinner in a blender. Media, weaving together events of first film in horror movie, flimsy new storyline in horror film, trying to weave together the events of the first film with a new storyline that's as flimsy as a wet paper towel. Media, Josh in the further in Insidious, Chapter 2, spooky spirit realm in horror movie. The movie picks up right where the first one left off, with Josh Lambert, Patrick Wilson, having just returned from the further, a spooky spirit realm that looks like it was decorated by a gothic interior designer on a budget. Media, creepy dad in low-budget horror flick, disturbed character behavior in horror movie. Josh is back, but he's not quite himself, which everyone figures out pretty quickly because he starts acting like he's auditioning for the role of creepy dad in a low-budget horror flick. Media, Renai experiencing supernatural events in Insidious. Chapter 2, bizarre and ridiculous supernatural events in horror film. Meanwhile, his wife, Renee, Rose Byrne, is trying to hold the family together while dealing with a series of increasingly bizarre and ridiculous supernatural events. Media, flashbacks to Josh's childhood encounters with malevolent spirit in horror movie, incoherent flashbacks in horror film. The film attempts to tie the present-day hauntings to Josh's childhood encounters with a malevolent spirit, leading to a series of flashbacks that are about as subtle as a sledgehammer and as coherent as a drunken ramble. Media, plot twists in horror movie, unpredictable storyline in horror film. The plot twists and turns with all the grace of a three-legged elephant. Media, climax of horror movie, confusing ending in horror film, leading to a climax that's supposed to be shocking, but ends up being more confusing than a Rubik's Cube solved by a blindfolded hamster. Speaker, narrator at 1. Media, horror movie stereotypes, group shot, cardboard cutouts, haunted house. The characters in Insidious. Chapter 2 are a motley crew of horror movie stereotypes, stumbling through the plot with all the depth and complexity of cardboard cutouts at a haunted house attraction. Media, Patrick Wilson overacting scenes, possessed father confusion. Patrick Wilson's Josh is supposed to be a loving father struggling with possession, but he spends most of the movie alternating between looking confused and delivering lines with all the subtlety of a soap opera villain. Media, Rose Byrne horror movie, mom terrified, frazzled. Rose Byrne's Renee is the quintessential horror movie mom bravely trying to protect her family while looking increasingly frazzled and terrified. Media, wet sponge, horror movie mom screaming, distressed. Her character is about as compelling as a wet sponge, making you wonder if she's actually concerned for her family's safety, or just really into screaming and looking distressed. Media, Barbara Hershey concerned grandmother haunted supernatural trouble. The supporting cast is equally uninspired, with Barbara Hershey's Lorraine Lambert reprising her role as the concerned grandmother, who seems to have an uncanny ability to attract supernatural trouble. Media, Specs and Tucker comedic relief ghost hunting duo, over-the-top bumbling antics. The ghost hunting duo of Specs and Tucker, Lee Wennell and Angus Sampson, provide some comic relief, but their bumbling antics are so over the top that you'll be left questioning if they're actually trying to help or just really bad at their jobs. Media, Lin Shaye, medium delivering exposition, reading phone book. The real star of the show is Lin Shaye's Elise, the medium who spends most of the movie delivering exposition with all the enthusiasm of someone reading a phone book. Media, mystical mumbo-jumbo dramatic declarations psychic laughable. Her character's mystical mumbo-jumbo and dramatic declarations are supposed to add to the tension, but they end up being more laughable than anything else. making you wonder if she's actually a powerful psychic or just really, really good at pretending to be one. Speaker, narrator at 10x. Media, awkward dialogue moments, rejected TV show lines. The dialogue in Insidious Chapter 2 is a masterclass in how not to write a screenplay, filled with lines that sound like they were lifted straight from a rejected episode of Scooby-Doo. Media, ham-fisted suspense attempts, poorly executed scares. The film's attempts at building suspense and delivering scares are so ham-fisted that you'll be left wondering if the writers were aiming for a serious horror film or just really, really bad at subtlety. Media, creepy monologues about the spirit world, forced acting. Josh's creepy monologues about the spirit world and his childhood encounters with ghosts might be chilling if they didn't feel so forced, making you question if he's actually possessed or just really, really into bad acting. Media, terrified pleas for help, overacted cries. Renee's constant stream of terrified pleas and desperate cries for help might be compelling if they didn't feel so cliched, making you wonder if she's actually scared or just really, really into overacting. Media, awkward exposition scenes, cringe-worthy one-liners. The rest of the cast's dialogue is a mix of awkward exposition and cringe-worthy one-liners, with lines that are more likely to induce groans than gasps. Media, forced humor attempts, poorly timed comedy moments. The film's attempts at humor are so forced and out of place that you'll be left questioning if they're actually trying to lighten the mood or just really, really bad at timing. Speaker, narrator at 10x. Media, jump scares in dark corridors, creepy carnival scenes. Scares, a carnival of cliches and predictable jumps. Media, predictable jump scares in haunted houses, cliches in horror movies. The scares in Insidious Chapter 2 are a dizzying blend of cliches and predictable jump scares that make you feel like you're watching a particularly bad episode of a haunted house reality show. Media, creaking doors in haunted settings, shadowy figures in dimly lit rooms. The film's various ghostly encounters and supernatural events are filled with all the usual tropes, creaking doors, flickering lights, and shadowy figures that are about as terrifying as a bad Halloween costume. Media, baby monitor, ghostly whispers, creepy messages to children. The infamous baby monitor scene where a ghostly voice whispers creepy messages to a child is supposed to be a spine-chilling moment. Media, prank call, ghostly voice, unconvincing haunting scenes. Instead, it feels more like a poorly rendered prank call, with the ghostly voice sounding less like a malevolent spirit and more like someone trying to order a pizza in a really bad accent. Media, cheap jump scares in horror films, spooky sound effects in scary movies. The film's reliance on cheap jump scares and spooky sound effects makes the stakes feel so low that you'll be left wondering if they're actually trying to scare you or just really, really into loud noises. Media, final showdown in eerie digital realm, epic battle between good and evil in supernatural setting. The final showdown in The Further is a mess of flashing lights and digital effects that looks more like a particularly trippy screensaver than an epic battle between good and evil. Media, improbable ghostly antics, characters fighting for their lives in the supernatural realm. The scares are so filled with random flashes and improbable ghostly antics that you'll be left questioning if the characters are actually fighting for their lives or just really, really into playing hide-and-seek with the supernatural. Speaker, narrator at 10x. Media, special effects horror movie scenes. Special effects, a visual feast of fumbling fantasies. Media, impressive visuals, CGI horror movie, bad CGI horror movie. The special effects in Insidious Chapter 2 are a mix of impressive visuals and laughably bad CGI that looks like it was thrown together by a team of animators who got lost in the dark and had to finish their work on a deadline. Media, flashy effects, ghostly horror movie, further depiction, horror movie. The film's various depictions of the Further and its ghostly inhabitants are filled with flashy effects that are meant to wow the audience but often come off as a distraction from the film's flimsy plot and wooden acting. Media, CGI spirits. Horror movie scenes, otherworldly creatures, horror movie clips. The CGI is particularly jarring in the scenes involving the spirits and otherworldly creatures, which look more like rejected designs from a low-budget horror movie than fearsome supernatural entities. Media, special effects storytelling horror movie, flashy visuals, horror movie narrative. The film's reliance on special effects to tell its story often feels like a crutch, with the flashy visuals doing little to mask the film's many narrative shortcomings. Speaker, narrator at 10x. Media, logical inconsistencies horror movie scene. Logic and plot holes, a Swiss cheese of a story. Media plot holes in horror movie scene. Insidious. Chapter 2 is a baffling parade of logical inconsistencies and plot holes that make you wonder if anyone involved in the production actually read the script. Media. Family moving back into haunted house horror movie. The idea that a family would move back into a house where they experienced horrific hauntings without any backup or plan is absurd enough. But the film's internal logic is so inconsistent that you'll be left questioning if they're actually trying to escape the spirits or just really, really bad at making life decisions. Media, laughable possession scene horror movie. The logistics of Josh's possession are equally laughable. Media, character hiding erratic behavior, horror movie. How does he manage to hide his increasingly erratic behavior from his family and friends? Media, instant trust or kill horror movie scene. Why does everyone he meets either instantly trust him or immediately try to kill him? Media, navigating the further in horror movie scene. And how is it that he manages to navigate the further with all the skill of a seasoned ghost hunter despite having no prior experience? Media, perplexing resolution, horror movie scene. The film's resolution is equally perplexing. Media, final confrontation with malevolent spirit horror movie. The final confrontation with the malevolent spirit wraps up in a way that's both predictable and unsatisfying, leaving you wondering if the whole movie was just an elaborate setup for a particularly flashy fireworks display. Media, lack of clear message in horror movie scene. The film's lack of any clear message or theme makes it feel more like a collection of random events than a cohesive story, leading to a conclusion that's as baffling as it is abrupt. Speaker narrator at 10x. Media, horror movie title card, the end. Conclusion, a horror sequel that's more of a comedy than a thriller. Media, humorous horror movie moments, over-the-top horror movie scares. In conclusion, Insidious. Chapter 2 is a film that's more entertaining for its unintentional humor and over-the-top scares than for any actual storytelling or character development. Media, tangled web horror movie scene. Its plot is a tangled web of twists and nonsense. Media, overacting horror movie characters. Its characters are a parade of stereotypes and overacting. Media, cringe-inducing horror movie dialogue, and its dialogue is a script full of groan-worthy exposition and cringe-inducing lines. Media, impressive visuals. Horror movie scenes, laughably bad CGI horror movie scenes. The special effects are a flashy mix of impressive visuals and laughably bad CGI. Media, glaring logical inconsistencies, horror movie. And the film's logical inconsistencies are so glaring that you'll be left questioning if anyone involved actually took the material seriously. Media, horror movie taking itself too seriously, wild ride horror movie adventure. So, if you're in the mood for a good laugh at a movie that takes itself way too seriously and delivers a wild ride through a bizarre horror adventure, media, popcorn and horror movie scene, grab some popcorn, sit back, media, absurd horror movie moments, and enjoy the absurdity that is Insidious. Chapter 2. Media, ridiculous horror movie scenes. Just don't expect to be terrified, thrilled, or even mildly entertained by anything other than the sheer ridiculousness of it all. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Quirky Critic signing out.